Hello, Samson here. So, in today's segment of book reviews, I'm going to be reviewing Games People Play, that is by Eric Berne. It is one of some hard psychological, psychotherapical books to read. It's not as long, but it's about 5 hours if you just dedicate that to reading it. It gave me a headache reading it because the assimilation of the information that was there was just so much for me to bring all through together in order just to come up with a review of it. But it is a classical book about human behavior which explains these wild and psychological games people play that you and everybody around you tries to play in order to manipulate each other. So it might be in a self-destructive or it might be in a divisive way. And that is how to tame our ego so that we can quit playing such games and then enjoy healthier relationships with people around us. So almost every time we interact with different people, we play psychological games. That is just the nature of human beings. So these can be power games, they can be sexual games, they can be love, interest, they can be games related to our bosses, or they can be competitive games, literally with our friends and with different types of people. So whatever the type of game we are playing, it is usually manipulative, and then we don't even tend to realize. Most of the times we are playing such games and we're doing whatever we are doing. So there are three basic concepts, or rather general ideas of the book, because it's divided into three parts. So the book is summarized in the first part, where we are talking about you are always acting within one of the three ego states that you have. So the three ego states being discussed, the parent ego state, there is an adult ego state, and there is a child ego state. The second lesson that we get is the games you play with other people depend on the ego state you're in. So in the first part, you're talking about how you behave depending on the three ego states, and then in the second section we're talking about the ego state that you're in, and then the last part is basically talking about you can become closer to people you love if you just try to live without playing games with them. All right, so delving right into you are always acting within one of the three ego states. So let me briefly explain what the three ego states are. So the first one is every individual has a parent or a substitute parent, right? And he carries within him a set of ego states that produce the ego state of the parent. The colloquially behind the whole gist is that every person carries his parents around inside him. So which is the first ego state that we have, the parental ego state. And then the second one is every individual, including children, the mentality retarded and schizophrenics, is capable of objective data processing. So everyone is capable of data processing if the appropriate ego state can be activated. So here we're talking about neo-psychic, right? So the neo-psychic functioning. In the parental ego state, we are talking about the exterior psychic functioning. So we have the neo-psychic functioning in the adult ego state. So the colloquially behind is everyone has an adult in them. And then the third ego state in which a person can be is the child ego state, that is archaeopsychic functioning of we as human beings. So everyone carries a little boy or a little girl inside of him or her. So having had an understanding of the three ego states, which actually provoke our actions, the second lesson of the book is the games we play usually going to depend on the type of ego state we might be in at different moments, and in different instances we find ourselves acting, maybe from the child, the child ego state, the adult ego state, or the parent ego state. So in defining what a game is, Eric Berne defines it as an ongoing series of complementary ulterior transactions that which are progressing to a well-defined, predictable outcome. So games are clearly differentiated from procedures, rituals, pastimes by the two chief characteristics that games have, right? So the first one is the ulterior quality, and the second one is the payoff, and that is the reason why we play games. So having known the definition of games, there are a number of games which are jotted down in the book, and they are very well explained, so that when you begin to read and understand what is going on in the book, you tend to find yourself falling in different categories, looking at the type of games that you might haven't played, or they might have been played on you. So the games classified into families according to the situations in which they mostly occur. So the first type that you have of games is a life game. So all games have an important and probably decisive influence on the destinies of people who play them. So the types under the life games here, we've got alcoholic, we've got debtors, we've got kick me, we have games like now I've got you, there are games like you son of a bitch, then there are also games like see what you made me do, and all the other type of games that are falling under that. Then we've got marital games, there are also party games, there are sexual games, which I'm going to define as games that are played to exploit or fight off sexual impulses. So these are actually in effect perversions of sexual instincts, in which the satisfaction is actually displaced from the sexual act to a crucial transaction which constitutes of a payoff of the game. And then there are different examples of such games which we play as human beings. So we can say, let's say you and him fight. So that's one of the first games. And then the second game can be perversion, and there is the rapport, and then there is stalking game, and there is an appro. And then there is another type which is played, I think that is the underworld games. And then the last type of games I think I want to discuss, good games. So Eric Berne defines what a good game is. So which is a game that might be described as one of whose society's contribution outweighs the complexity of its motivation. So is particularly if the player has come to terms with those motivations without futility or cynicism. So that is a good game, right? So a game would be one which contributes both to the well-being of the other players and to the unfolding of who that person is. So good games are the games which are supposed to be playing in order to have relationships which are healthy with different human beings. So the third lesson is you can become closer to people you love if you try to live without playing such games. So the attainment of autonomy is manifested by the release or recovery of the three capacities that we need as human beings. And this is the last thing I think I'm going to discuss from the book. So the three capacities are awareness, there is spontaneity, and there is intimacy. So awareness means the capacity to see a coffee pot and hear birds sing in your own way without having been taught. So the aware person is alive. He knows how he feels. He knows where he is and when it is and what he's supposed to do. So that is self-awareness. Just having this instinct about what is happening that is peculiar and particular to you, right? And then spontaneity means the option, the freedom to choose and express one's feelings from the assortment that is available. So the assortments available can be the parent feeling, can be the adult feeling, or it can be the child feeling. So it means liberation. That is liberation from the compulsory to play games and have only the feeling one was taught to have. So depending on the type of ego that you have, and that is where the games are going to come from. And then the last one is intimacy. So which means the spontaneous game, free candidness of an aware person, the liberation of epidetically perceptive and corrupted child in all the natives, so living in the here and the now. So that is where intimacy lies. So as I made a disclaimer already that this wasn't an easy book to read and grasp the whole concept, but the general idea behind is the psychology of how human beings interact with each other. Having said that, till we meet in the next segment, I am checking out.